My name is Bessie Thomas, 34 years old. There are moments that divide your life into a before and an after. Mine came on a rainy afternoon in June when my oncologist folded his hands, looked me in the eyes, and quietly said, "Stage 2 Hodgkin's lymphoma." It wasn't dramatic, no music, no tears at first. Just a single sentence that instantly erased every plan I'd made for the rest of the year. Suddenly, my calendar was filled with chemotherapy appointments instead of vacations, blood tests instead of birthdays, and survival instead of certainty. The treatment was brutal. 6 rounds of ABVD chemotherapy became the rhythm of my life. By the 3rd round, my hair began falling out in handfuls every time I brushed it. Eventually, I stood in my bathroom, looked into the mirror, and shaved the rest away before cancer could decide when I was finished saying goodbye to it. I lost nearly 30 pounds in 3 months, but it wasn't the kind of weight loss anyone celebrates. My clothes hung off my body. My skin looked gray. Some mornings I barely had enough strength to walk from my bed to the kitchen without stopping to catch my breath. The exhaustion wasn't something people could understand unless they'd lived through it. It wasn't feeling sleepy. It felt like every cell in my body had forgotten how to keep moving. Holding a fork sometimes felt like lifting a dumbbell. Climbing the stairs became an accomplishment worthy of applause. The day after my diagnosis, my parents insisted I move back into my childhood home. I argued for exactly 10 minutes before realizing I didn't have the energy to keep pretending I could do everything alone. My mother, Linda, immediately turned my old bedroom into a recovery space. Fresh sheets every week, homemade soup almost every day. She believed food could heal anything, and while I knew it couldn't cure cancer, it reminded me every single day that I was loved. My father, Michael, wasn't a man who talked much. Instead, he showed love by quietly driving me to every chemotherapy appointment, waiting for hours in uncomfortable chairs without complaining once. Sometimes, we'd ride home in complete silence. Somehow those silent drives comforted me more than any speech ever could. My boyfriend, Daniel Carter, became my anchor through everything. After finishing work each evening, he'd stop by with flowers, books, or sometimes absolutely nothing except himself. He never stared at my bald head, never pretended I wasn't sick either. He simply treated me like I was still Bessie. We'd sit on the back porch drinking tea while he talked about ordinary things. His coworkers, football scores, terrible movies we'd eventually watch together when I felt better. During the darkest months of my life, ordinary conversations felt extraordinary. Unfortunately, not everyone around me understood compassion. My older brother Ryan had been married to Vanessa Collins for 4 years. Ryan was a kind man, but somewhere during their marriage, he'd slowly stopped disagreeing with his wife. It wasn't because he lacked opinions. It was because arguing with Vanessa always ended the same way. Hours of accusations, until everyone else became too exhausted to continue. Vanessa had built her entire personality around fitness. Every morning before sunrise, she posted gym selfies with motivational captions about discipline, hustle, and becoming the best version of yourself. She sold expensive wellness supplements through an MLM company and somehow managed to steer nearly every family gathering toward calories, metabolism, detox plans, or protein intake. She commented on everyone's appearance without invitation. If someone gained weight, she'd offer dieting advice. If someone lost weight, she'd ask what workout they were doing. Boundaries simply didn't exist in her world. Normally, I ignored her. After cancer, her comments felt sharper. By mid-October, I was only 2 weeks away from my 5th chemotherapy session. I wore soft knitted beanies everywhere, because even though my family never cared about my appearance, I still wasn't comfortable walking around completely bald. One afternoon, my mother spread grocery lists across the kitchen table. "This Thanksgiving is going to be special," she said with a smile. "You'll have your 5th treatment behind you. We're celebrating how far you've come." For the first time in weeks, I smiled without forcing it. Then my phone buzzed. The family group chat. "Vanessa! Everyone! I'm so excited for Thanksgiving! I'm bringing my personal trainer as my +1. He's incredible at body transformations, and honestly, Bessie could really use some motivation to get back into shape. No offense, lol. Maybe he can do a quick consultation after dinner. He's even running holiday specials. I stared at the message. Once. Twice. 3 times. No offense. Those 2 words somehow made the entire message even crueler. I was sitting there wearing a beanie because chemotherapy had taken my hair. I'd lost 30 pounds because toxic chemicals were being pumped into my body to keep me alive. And Vanessa somehow looked at all of that and saw a potential fitness client. Ryan didn't respond. He rarely did whenever she crossed the line. Dad answered with a single question mark. For him, that was practically shouting. Seconds later, my phone rang. "Mom," I answered. "I saw it," she said, before I could speak. I could hear cabinets opening and closing in the kitchen. That was always how she handled anger. She cleaned instead of screamed. "Don't answer her yet. I'll take care of it." I looked down at my hands. Over the last 5 months, everyone had been taking care of me. Doctors decided my treatment. Nurses monitored my medication. Dad drove me everywhere. Mom cooked every meal. Daniel carried groceries and picked up prescriptions. I was grateful, but I was tired of everyone fighting my battles. "No," I said quietly. "This one is mine." I opened the family chat and typed, "The more, the merrier." Then I opened a private conversation with Vanessa. "Actually, I think Mom wants to keep Thanksgiving limited to immediate family this year. I appreciate the thought, but your trainer shouldn't come." The message was marked red almost instantly. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, returned. Seriously? I already invited him. "That's incredibly rude." "I'm sure he'll understand," I replied. "It's a family holiday." An hour later, Ryan called. "Bessie." His voice already sounded exhausted. "Vanessa's really upset. I'm not excluding her, I know. I'm excluding her trainer, I know. But she already told him he was coming." "No." Silence filled the call. Finally, he sighed. "I'll talk to her." I wished I believed him. Because after 4 years of watching their marriage, I knew exactly how that conversation would end. Vanessa would keep talking. Ryan would eventually stop arguing. Nothing would actually change. What I didn't realize was that this tiny disagreement over one Thanksgiving invitation was about to expose years of manipulation, crack my brother's marriage wide open, and become the beginning of the biggest family reckoning we'd ever experienced. The week after I told Vanessa her trainer wasn't invited, everything spiraled faster than I expected. She didn't simply disagree. She launched a campaign. The first person she called was my mother. Later, Mom told me Vanessa spent nearly 20 minutes insisting she had been personally attacked and body-shamed. The irony was almost unbelievable. The woman who had just suggested a chemotherapy patient needed a body transformation was now claiming to be the victim. Mom listened for about 2 minutes before cutting in. "Thanksgiving is for family, blood relatives, spouses, and the people who've been standing beside us through this year. Your trainer isn't family, but he's practically family to me." "No," Mom answered firmly. "He's your personal trainer." Click. Mom hung up before Vanessa could continue. That alone told me how serious things had become. My mother had never hung up on anyone in my life. Later that evening, Vanessa texted me privately. "I honestly don't understand why you're so offended. I was trying to help you. You're obviously going through something, and instead of appreciating someone who cares about your health, you're attacking me. This is exactly why people stop trying to support others." I read the message twice. Then I took a screenshot. Without adding a single word, I sent it to Ryan. Several minutes later, he replied, "She means well." 3 words. That was all. I locked my phone without answering. 2 days later, my cousin Emma texted me. "Is this about you?" Attached was a screenshot from Vanessa's Instagram story. She was laughing beside her trainer while they performed some synchronized workout in matching gym clothes. Across the video, she'd written, "Some families reject your kindness. Thankfully, there are still people who value wellness." The trainer had reposted it. I couldn't decide whether to laugh or feel sorry for them. I simply replied to Emma, "Yep." By then, Thanksgiving was only a few days away. Mom sent one final family message confirming dinner time, who was bringing dessert, and reminding everyone that it would be a quiet gathering. Vanessa responded with nothing but a thumbs up emoji. For about 5 minutes, I believed the drama was over. I was wrong. 3 days before Thanksgiving, Ryan called. His voice sounded drained. Bessie, what's wrong? Vanessa says if her trainer isn't invited, she's not coming. Okay. There was silence. Then he continued. And she says if she doesn't come, I shouldn't either. I leaned back against my pillow. So what are you going to do? I don't know. Ryan, I know she's being unreasonable. Then come to Thanksgiving. You don't understand. No, I interrupted gently. I understand perfectly. Another long pause. She's going to make my life miserable. I closed my eyes. Ryan, she's already making your life miserable. He didn't answer. After a few seconds, the call disconnected. The next afternoon, Vanessa made her final announcement in the family group chat. Since my opinions clearly don't matter and I've been excluded from decisions about a holiday I'm supposed to be part of, I won't be attending Thanksgiving this year. Ryan and I will spend it somewhere we're actually appreciated. No one rushed to comfort her. Dad answered with one word. Noted. Ryan never replied. Thanksgiving morning arrived. I woke up expecting one more explosion before dinner. Instead, the doorbell rang. Dad opened the front door. Ryan stood there alone. His shirt was wrinkled. Dark circles sat beneath his eyes. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. Mom wrapped him in a hug before he even stepped inside. I'm sorry, he whispered. She kissed his forehead. You're home. That was enough. He walked into the kitchen where I was helping peel potatoes. For a second, we simply looked at each other. Finally, he managed a tired smile. She's going to kill me. I laughed softly. Sit down. Mom made the sweet potato casserole. For the first time in years, Thanksgiving actually felt peaceful. There were no lectures about carbohydrates, no conversations about detox drinks, no MLM sales pitch between the turkey and dessert. Just family. Mom kept bringing out food. Dad quietly carved the turkey. My aunt teased everyone over football. Daniel sat beside me, occasionally squeezing my hand whenever fatigue started showing on my face. Ryan actually laughed. Not politely. Not because someone expected him to. A genuine laugh. I realized I hadn't heard that sound in years. After dessert, Dad pulled me aside while everyone else argued over pie flavors. You did the right thing. I wasn't sure. He looked toward Ryan. That woman has been holding your brother hostage for years. I nearly choked on my pumpkin pie. Coming from Dad, that was practically a full speech. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in months. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hi, Bessie. This is Trevor, Vanessa's trainer. She gave me your number. She was really hurt yesterday, and honestly, I think your family owes her an apology. She was only trying to help you improve your health. I frowned. The message continued. By the way, I'm running a Black Friday special. 12-week transformation program. 50% off. Might be exactly what you need right now. Let me know. I stared at the screen. Then I laughed. I laughed so hard my ribs hurt. Imagine trying to sell a fitness package to a woman recovering from chemotherapy. Still laughing, I took a screenshot and dropped it into the family group chat. Black Friday sale for my cancer body. Anyone interested? Dad answered first. I'll take 2. Emma replied with a flood of laughing emojis. Even Daniel texted, Tell him I have a coupon for common sense. Ryan never responded. Later, Mom admitted he'd buried his face in his hands the moment he read it. Unfortunately, that screenshot became the spark that finally pushed Vanessa completely over the edge. The family group chat screenshot sent Vanessa into a complete meltdown. She called my mother screaming that I was using my illness to manipulate everyone against her. Mom listened for less than 30 seconds before hanging up. It was the second time in 1 week she'd ended a conversation without saying goodbye. That alone told me how finished she was with the drama. Vanessa immediately switched strategies. She started texting my aunt, my cousins, and anyone else who had attended Thanksgiving, sending long explanations about how she had only wanted to help. According to her version of events, I had spent years mocking her passion for fitness and finally convinced the family to turn against her. Somehow, the chemotherapy, the trainer, and the insulting group message barely appeared in her story. My aunt wasn't interested. She replied with one sentence, "I was there. I saw a peaceful Thanksgiving for the first time in years. Maybe ask yourself why." Vanessa never answered. A few days later, Ryan came over to my parents' house. He looked exhausted, not just physically, emotionally. We sat around the kitchen table while Mom poured coffee. For several minutes, he stared into the mug before finally speaking. "I don't think I can do this anymore." No one interrupted him. Once he started talking, everything poured out. Vanessa checked his phone whenever she wanted. She decided which friends he could spend time with. If he made plans without her approval, she'd start an argument that lasted until he canceled. She controlled their finances, too. Every purchase over $20 required an explanation. Yet she'd spend hundreds on supplements, workout clothes, and conferences without mentioning it. Listening to him was heartbreaking. None of us realized how isolated he'd become. Dad walked into the kitchen, halfway through Ryan's confession. He listened quietly. When Ryan finally whispered, "I think I need to leave, but I don't know where to start," Dad answered without hesitation, "Your room is still upstairs." Ryan moved back home that week. He didn't file for divorce immediately. Instead, he met with a lawyer. The advice was simple. Document everything. Keep every message. Communicate in writing whenever possible. Don't argue. Don't move money. Ryan followed every instruction exactly. Vanessa did the opposite. She flooded social media with vague posts about toxic families, betrayal, and emotional abuse. Every few days, Trevor, the trainer, appeared beside her in another motivational video about cutting negative people out of your life. Then she crossed another line. Ryan had owned a black Labrador named Cooper long before they married. One evening she texted him, "If you want to see your dog, come home and start acting like a husband. Otherwise, I'll find him another family." Ryan didn't argue over text. The next morning, he drove to the house with Dad and two close friends. When Vanessa refused to let him inside, Dad calmly stepped forward. "That dog belonged to my son before the wedding." She folded her arms. "I'm not moving." Dad looked her straight in the eyes. "Then we'll let the police explain property ownership." She stepped aside. Ryan collected Cooper, a few boxes of clothes, his tools, and several personal belongings from the garage. Nothing more. Nothing that belonged to her. He walked away without raising his voice. I thought that would be the end of my involvement. I was wrong. A week later, I received a lengthy email from Vanessa. The first several paragraphs sounded almost apologetic. She admitted Thanksgiving had gotten out of hand. She admitted she knew my treatments had been difficult. Then the tone changed. "You're using your cancer diagnosis as a shield. Everyone feels sorry for you. And you've manipulated your family into treating me like the villain. Ryan is destroying our marriage because of you." I read the email once, forwarded it directly to Ryan. His lawyer immediately asked for a copy. Vanessa had unknowingly created another piece of evidence showing she fully understood my medical condition while continuing to minimize it and blame me for the consequences of her own behavior. The divorce proceedings officially began in January. Vanessa demanded nearly everything. The house, alimony, Ryan paying her legal fees. She claimed she'd sacrificed her career for the marriage. The career she referred to was her supplement business, which had barely earned anything over several years. Ryan's documentation told a very different story. Bank statements, mortgage payments, screenshots, emails, text messages. Every accusation she made was answered with records. The judge didn't need dramatic speeches. Facts were enough. The house was ordered to be sold. Because Ryan had paid the down payment and most of the mortgage, the financial division favored him. No alimony. Each side paid its own attorney. The ruling lasted only a short time. Years of manipulation ended with paperwork instead of theatrics. Vanessa posted several angry messages online afterward. Trevor even tried defending her in one post that was so poorly written, my cousins turned it into a running family joke. For the first time in months, laughter returned to our family for reasons that had nothing to do with pretending everything was okay. Meanwhile, life slowly moved forward. I finished my final chemotherapy treatment in December. A few weeks later, my oncologist smiled as he reviewed my scans. They look good. Not perfect, not guaranteed, but good. Those 4 letters felt like someone had handed me my future back. Tiny patches of hair started growing again. They stuck out in every direction and made me look ridiculous. I loved every strand. Ryan rented a small apartment in February. Cooper settled in immediately. Ryan took longer. He also started seeing a therapist, something he once insisted he'd never do. Watching him slowly become himself again reminded me that healing isn't always physical. Sometimes the deepest scars are invisible. As for Vanessa, I eventually heard Trevor stopped working with her not long after the divorce became final. Apparently, the constant drama wasn't good for business. Months later, Ryan received one final message from her. "You threw away 4 years for nothing." He showed me the text. "What are you going to say?" I asked. He smiled, locked his phone, picked up Cooper's tennis ball, and threw it across the park. Nothing. That was his answer. As for me, I don't spend much time thinking about Vanessa anymore. I think about my next scan. I think about my mother's homemade soup. I think about Dad quietly patting my shoulder one afternoon and saying, "You look good, kid." 3 simple words. They carried more love than every fake wellness lecture I'd heard combined. Looking back, I realized Thanksgiving was never really about a trainer. It was about finally deciding that people who don't respect your pain don't deserve a place at your table. Sometimes protecting your peace isn't loud. Sometimes it's as simple as refusing to set one more plate.